Claire Edwards, everyone.
Hello, I'm very glad to be here. First of all, I want to ask, I want to find out how much you know about 5G. So can you put your hands up if you know nothing about 5G? Okay, this is going to be a little bit scary for you. Sorry, is this going to be very scary for you? Okay, what about people who know, like, they think they know, a bit, but not that much? Okay, right. What about people who know a lot? Okay, good. Right, so at 9:30, my colleague Steve and I are going to do a Q&A on 5G, because in this talk I'm really looking at the solutions to 5G. So I'm going to cover 5G really quickly and not give the detail here. But at 9:30, if you want to come back for a Q&A, then we'll really go into it and then make sure that you know what you need to know about 5G. So, let's start. Okay. Okay, so we had some gremlins when we started. Okay, we think we still got the gremlins, actually.
I'm a bit blind. Can you, if necessary, read some of the slides? Would you mind? If possible.
Well, I'm going to be telling you about them, so don't worry, yeah?
Good.
Okay, now we want 3. All right, brilliant, okay. So, the first thing we need to know about 5G is that we don't know about 5G. And the reason that we don't know about 5G is that it is completely undefined. The Federal Communications Commission former chairman in the US, in 2016, he made a speech at a press conference, and he said, we're not waiting for the standards on 5G. We're not waiting around for committees and commissions to decide the standards. That means that 5G is completely undefined, which is unprecedented. Normally you would know what you're dealing with. Here we don't. US Senator Richard Blumenthal, earlier this year in February, there was a Senate committee hearing, and he asked the telecommunications industry representatives, he said, well, have you done any studies on 5G? He said, have you invested any money in studies on 5G? And they looked at each other and they said, no, none. We've never invested any money in this. Like, who cares? So we know that there are no health studies on 5G. So if anybody in the media tells you that 5G is safe, you need to ask them immediately, give me the study, because there isn't one. So when they say it's safe, they are lying, and they are liable for lying to you. Now, the second thing we need to know about 5G is that it is completely illegal in every way. Under national laws, international laws, it's completely illegal. In the EU, we have the precautionary principle. And you invoke the precautionary principle when you have even one study which throws doubt on the safety of something. Then you invoke the precautionary principle. We have 28,000 studies which show that wireless technology is absolutely devastating for health, and therefore the precautionary principle should have been invoked. The fact that it's illegal, the fact that the precautionary principle has not been invoked, means that we are in the collapse of law. That's where we are right now. The consequences of 5G. So to sum up the consequences of 5G, I'll give you some comments from various people. So there's a French astrophysicist called Aurélien Barrault, and he posted on Facebook earlier this year, I think, he said, 5G kills. Oleg Grigoriev, head of the Russian National Committee on Non-Ionizing Radiation Protection, he has called 5G a slow Hiroshima. So it's not going to happen in minutes, it will happen in months. Professor Emeritus Martin Paul of Washington State University, he is expecting societal collapse within months if 5G goes ahead. And the most prominent speaker to speak about this is UK Prime Minister Boris Johnson, who stood up at the United Nations General Assembly just a few weeks ago, and he talks about the dangers of AI, artificial intelligence, and he said it is a giant thundercloud lowering over the human race, and he gave the strongest warning about it. So, Mahatma Gandhi told us, when evil men make bad laws, righteous men disobey them. We are in the collapse of the rule of law. The fact that governments are implementing this completely illegally, the fact that they are lying about the safety of it when we know that it's not safe, means that we have to take authority, because there is no authority now. They're doing something which is completely illegal, so we have to take authority. We, the people, have to stand in our power, and we have to tell the governments they are not going to do this. Okay, we have a few gremlins with these slides. I have to be a bit careful. Now, today I want to talk about the solutions. I want to focus on the positive side of 5G, because for me, I think it has a very positive side. But what concerns me is we seem to have descended now into insanity. When I look at 5G, I just can't believe it. I can't believe it's happening. For months last year, I was pinching myself every morning as I woke up, saying, well, it just can't be happening. Yes, it's happening. It's real. So my constant thought was, how did we get here? Well, in my view, we got here through the materialist reductionist paradigm, which is the paradigm that we've had for the last 2,000 years. So it means that we are extremely left-brained. And when you use the left brain, everything is separate. You look at everything as separate, and everything is disconnected. There's no connection between anything. And also, when you focus on the left brain, you tend to, it's very disorientating. It's a very disorientating perception. So you tend to want to exercise control. Now, the right brain tends to focus on the holistic view, and the right brain perception, in the right brain perception, it's okay not to fully understand everything. Even things that are ungraspable, you can still be okay with that. So our focus on the left brain, I think, really influences the way we act and the way we judge. Now, another part of the materialist reductionist paradigm is the way we look at time. So in the Christian tradition, of course, we have a view that takes us from creation through the fall of man to salvation. And that kind of gives us a line. So we're looking towards the future and salvation. So you see time in terms of a line. Now, if you see time as in a linear way, that also entails a sense of progress, that things are improving, they're progressing over time. But it's just a perception, because the Chinese see time as a spiral. they don't see it as linear. So for the Chinese, things come round again and again and again. Not exactly the same, because we're learning each time, so the lesson comes round many times. And we grow. Then, of course, we had Descartes and the scientific revolution. And with Descartes, I think, therefore I am, we had the split between the mind and the body, the head and the heart. We had the split between spirituality and science. And we pushed spirituality aside. Spirituality almost became a dirty word. You know, everything was science, everything was rational. And we became cut off from nature as we went into this emphasis on science. Now, in the Bible, it tells us that God gave man dominion over the animals. And this means that in the West, in the Christian tradition, we tend to see ourselves as separate from nature, outside nature. But if you look at the Asian thinking, they see themselves as part of nature. So whereas you will often hear in the West, you will hear people compare the human body to a machine. I heard a British journalist just 2 weeks ago talking about the tree as a machine. Yeah? But this would not happen in Asia, because they would more readily see their bodies as analogous to a plant, yeah, as organic. So with the scientific revolution and the rise of the individual saw himself as above nature and within his rights to exploit nature. And this was the rational thing to do. So if you become separate from nature and you feel that you have dominion over nature, then it becomes your property to exploit as you will. Combine that with this left brain emphasis, and now you see how you can, for example, have fracking, where, you know, you've got the fracking, you've got the earthquakes, but of course, there's no connection between the two. And this is a very evident way of thinking. So, is it a matter or is it an energy universe? So, this is about Newtonian science compared to quantum science. So, Newtonian science tells us that it's a matter universe, and the quantum world tells us that it's an energy universe. Now, quantum physics has been around for over 100 years, and we have a lot of evidence, well, to me, conclusive evidence that it is an energy universe. When you touch something, you're not touching something. You're meeting an electromagnetic field, and you're meeting electron repulsion. We never touch anything because everything is energy. Now here you can see on the left, you can see this is the human brain, and this is the universe. It's hard to distinguish between the two. So it's a holistic universe. Things are not separate. And does it matter? Well, now that 5G is coming, it very much matters whether we understand this or not. Probably you know about cymatics. In cymatics, you can put sand or flour on a surface, and you apply sound to it, and that sound makes shapes. According to the frequency of the sound, different shapes are made. And you probably also know about Masaru Emoto, who did experiments with water, and he made frozen water crystals and then looked at them under a microscope. And what he found was water contains information. Now, we don't know the mechanism for that, but water is magnetic. Now, I don't know, does that have something to do with the magnetic tapes, the recording tapes that I grew up with? Is this why water records information? But the fact is that it does. So this, for example, is Lake Maggiore in Switzerland. This is water that was frozen, and then they looked at the crystal, and of course it produces a very beautiful crystal. The one below it is water that has been exposed to heavy metal music. So what this means is that our thoughts are influencing our bodies. We are 70% water. So what we think, what we're exposed to, is influencing the state of our bodies. Now, I find it very interesting that if you look at the history of electromagnetic radiation, it has consistently been correlated with rises, very significant rises, in the modern diseases of civilization. But also, why did we have that electromagnetic radiation? We had it because of radio and television. So increasingly, over the last, however long it is, 70 or 80 years, we've had more and more noise, more and more information. And a lot of this information is what I call fear porn. I mean, I stopped watching the news, I don't know, decades ago. I never ever watch the news. I know what's going on because I go and research it, but I would never ever watch the news because the news is fear porn. And the reason for this is to put you in a state of fear. So we are permanently traumatized by the kind of society that we live in, and I think it's proved here. So we need to be extremely careful about what we expose our bodies to, what kind of information, and what kind of information we put in our heads, and what kind of information we send out of our heads. Because what this means is that everybody you interact with, you are having an effect on. So we don't want to be criticizing somebody or going into conflict with somebody. We literally do want to be sending them blessings. Forgive them, for they know not what they do, said Jesus. We need to be blessing everybody, and we need to be blessing ourselves. Now, Emoto did experiments where he put words on a piece of paper and then labeled a glass with that word, and according to the nature of the word, he would get a beautiful or an ugly crystal. So you can see here that you have gratitude. When he put, I hate you, or you are a fool, then accordingly he got very, very ugly and misformed crystals. And he also used this technique. He used a magnetic resonance analyzer to actually solve people's diseases, even as much as cancer and leukemia. He was able to analyze people's bodies and then correct the resonance. So I think this is a very something that we need to think about to put ourselves in always in a positive mode. Now here you had German scientists who confirmed, because this is science, this is not woo-woo. So you had German scientists who established that water does have memory. They put flowers into the water, and then they looked at the water droplets, and each water droplet contained an image of the flower that had been put in. They also found when they were doing this that each researcher picked up a droplet of water and transferred it from one place to another, and each researcher had their own identity. So here you've got 4 researchers, each with their own frequency that they transferred to that water just by coming into contact with it. So it shows you that we are beings of frequency. Okay, so very briefly, let's look at 5G. Now, 5G is not a faster version of 4G. 5G has nothing to do with 4G. For a start, we need to understand that wireless technology, 1G, 2G, 3G, 4G, fifth generation, wireless technology was never tested for health or safety. So all wireless technology is a killer. There is no safe level of artificial electromagnetic radiation. It is alien to our biology. So the only safe level is 0. So when you hold a mobile phone, you are holding a grenade. It's very simple. A grenade goes off in 3 seconds. Your grenade, depending on your phone, will kill you in third generation, I don't know, maybe 30 years. Fourth generation, I don't know, 10 or 20 years. Fifth generation, as we've seen, don't know. It's completely unknown. But let's say it's going to be between, hours and months. It's going to be very fast. They talk about blanketing the earth. If you look at the literature, they talk about blanketing the earth. They want to cover the entire earth, including the oceans. Every square centimetre would be covered by wireless technology. And it's going to come at you in beams like lasers. It's going to come at you from absolutely everywhere. So they're hiding these antennas under manhole covers. This is the latest and greatest thing. So when you go for a walk with your baby, and you're going along there with the stroller, and you stop the baby over the manhole cover, and you meet a friend, your baby is being irradiated. They're going to put them in cabinets in the street. They've designed special cabinets so that the antennas pass straight through. So if you're standing next to one of those cabinets on the street, or your baby is, you're going to be highly irradiated with these laser-like beams. The LED streetlights, I've now traveled over many, many countries in Europe. It doesn't matter if it's a poor country, if it's a wealthy country. Every country has these LED lights. I have the documents. These are phototoxic. These LED lights kill. And we can go into that more later. But it's established, they kill. Plus, you may have noticed that when you come across the LED lights, it's blinding to you. You go like this. That's because, one, they're LED lights and they're blasting at you, but another reason is that lights used to have a diffuser to soften the light as it came to you. And you will notice that 9 times, well, more than that, most of these LED lights now have no diffusers. So these are also totally illegal, and they are part of the 5G rollout. I won't go through all of them. Smart meters, we've just talked about the effect of frequency on water. And so now imagine if you have smart meters for your water, that is actually making your water toxic. So you do not want to have smart meters. 5G would be outside at least every 3rd house. It would be coming from your Wi-Fi router in your home. The Internet of Things, they are talking about connecting everything that can be connected to the Internet of Things. So this would be everything in your home, your cereal packet, your orange juice carton, your fridge, your hairdryer, whatever. And everything would have an RFID chip, which means that these laser-like beams would be coming into your home to reach each of those objects and going out of your home as well. And so you would be in a constant web of these dangerous beams. Also, Ericsson is designing little tiny antennas that they're sticking on adhesive strips. So if you go to a conference like this, you could find that these are hidden underneath a carpet. I'm sure they're not here because they're not fully out yet. But they would be hiding them. So you would be actually walking over these things as well. So this is going to be coming at you from everywhere, if you let it happen. I haven't finished yet. There are wearables, which you've probably heard about, things that you can strap on your wrist to monitor your heart or whatever it might be. These are supposed to be helping you to monitor your health, and some people are using these apps and putting them under their pillow on their mobile phone and then sleeping on top of the mobile phone. Well, I mean, you know, I find it difficult to find an adjective to describe this. I just call it demented, you know, because these things are killing you. They're not helping your health at all. 53,000 satellites. I won't go into this, we'll talk about it later, but currently we have 5,000 satellites up there. Now for 5G, they're proposing 53,000 satellites. But it doesn't just stop there, because they also want to put pseudo-satellites in the stratosphere, and they want to network civil aircraft and beam internet down to Earth from civil aircraft. So you're going to have 3 layers up there. Then you have it in planes, in cars, buses, trains. I never, ever travel on public transport. I drive everywhere in my car, and I ask people never to use a phone in my car. Why? Because when you are in a metal-walled vehicle, so you are moving, and if you're trying to use your phone, that phone has to try to connect to a signal while you're in a moving vehicle. So the phone now goes to maximum to try to find a signal. So if I want to travel on the underground and I'm in a carriage with 50 people, all with mobile phones, because everybody wants a mobile phone, then all of those 50 mobile phones are on maximum. So I am being irradiated, especially the aqueous parts of my body, my eyes, my kidneys especially. I'm being irradiated then by 50 phones at maximum. And it doesn't stop there, because they reflect off the metal walls of the vehicle. So you're being repeatedly hit as it reflects off your body and off the metal walls of the vehicle. This should be totally illegal. So this is the biggest biological experiment in human history. And most people don't even know this. Tom Wheeler, again, former chairman of the Federal Communications Commission, he actually said at this 2016 conference, if anybody tells you they know what 5G is, run the other way. Well, nobody does know what 5G is. We have some notions of what it is, but it's actually still being decided. Even the telecommunications companies are still working out how to make this work. .5G is a weapon. This is no communications technology. It's a weapon. I can tell you why later on tonight. Yeah, it's about the weaponization. This is actually about the weaponization of the Earth itself, because the ionosphere is what protects us from cosmic radiation. Now, these satellites and the ground stations as well, when they communicate with the satellites, they will be punching their way through the ionosphere. This threatens the entire planet. So our very existence is threatened. This is a potential annihilation event. So it's not only the weaponization of the Earth, it's the weaponization of space as well, and it's the weaponization of the human bodies, because now, as we've seen, these frequencies will affect every system in your body, And we now have the health results from the last 25 years, and they are absolutely devastating. If anybody has heard about HARP, HARP is the High Frequency Active Auroral Project. It's an ionospheric heater. And I thought that I might look into HARP when I did my last article, which I did on the space aspect of this. And I was very surprised to see that HARP, which is a weapon, it was developed by the US military, it bears a remarkable resemblance to 5G. So HARP also uses banks of antennas arranged in phased arrays, which means that you've got a very high number of antennas which form a beam, a laser-like beam. So the same as 5G. Both can be used as a communication system, but they're not primarily a communication system. Both can disrupt mental function, and they can impair the brain performance of very large populations, and they can also manipulate people's emotions, and they can also do what's called voice to skull, so they can both put thoughts, voices into people's heads. So you can't differentiate. You don't understand why you have this voice in your head. Oops. Yeah, they can both heat the skin, and they can make individuals very slow or very hyperactive. And this has already been happening. This is established. So, I want to look at the solutions to 5G. Now, 5G is uncharted territory. You remember those maps that the explorers used to have, and the maps had on them, "Here be dragons." In other words, these were the unexplored areas where there were no maps for those areas. And so people were very afraid of those areas. And that's what you have with 5G. So the first problem you have with telling people, informing people about 5G is cognitive dissonance, because people simply can't believe it. No, the government would never do this to us. There are product standards. This couldn't happen. People simply can't believe it. And the second problem you have is that it's completely unprecedented. So for everything in life, there's a precedent. Doesn't matter what it is. How do I pay my electricity bill? Oh, you have to contact the electricity company. They give you a form, you fill it in. You pay once a month, pay it through your bank, or A, B, C, D. For everything in life, there's a system, there's a process. But with 5G, it's completely unprecedented. So we have no idea either what it is or how to deal with it. And therefore, we're lost. Yeah? We feel, will there be dragons? We just can't go there. But we have to go there. We have to go there because our governments are not going to stop this. They're not going to stop this unless each of us stands up and tells them that they have to stop it. And if we don't stop it, well, we have to stop it. Let's just put it like that. We have to stop it. Yeah? I mean, we cannot allow this to happen because there's no coming back from it. If we destroy the planet, well, that's it. Yeah? And even for ourselves, these injuries are irreversible. So normally when you think about an injury, oh, you know, he broke his leg, but now he's okay, it's 6 weeks later, you know. We think about healing from injury, but you don't come back from these injuries from wireless technology or mobile phones. Once your brain barrier is leaking, which it will do after 2 minutes, it will never come back, you know. A fetus that is exposed stands a very high likelihood of being born autistic. We have, in the US, about 20 years ago, 1 in 10,000 babies was born autistic. And we have a very prominent scientist in the US now who is saying that by 2025, she believes every second baby will be autistic. Now, I don't know how a society would deal with that, but that's where we are after 25 years of phone use. So, for me, 5G is a gift. That might sound very strange, but the point is, you're not going to be able to escape from 5G. There's no escape from 5G. Now, I'm not here to sell you anything. I'm certainly not here to sell you any kind of protection. And if somebody wants to sell you protection, in my view, they're not telling you the truth, because there is no protection, not from 5G. Possibly with earlier generations of wireless technology, you could have used lead paint to paint your walls, or you could get some sort of talisman to protect yourself against earlier generations, but not with 5G. And in any case, even if you could protect yourself, how is protecting yourself going to protect the bees, the animals, the trees, nature, and the ionosphere? So we have to think holistically now, and we have to stop it, and we have to protect not only ourselves, but everybody else around us and the entire planet. So for me, it's an opportunity. We are the map makers of the new paradigm. For me, the materialist reductionist paradigm has run its course. For me, 5G is the ultimate expression of mad thinking. And so now we have the opportunity to chart a course to the new paradigm. And we do that by stopping 5G, interestingly. Franklin D. Roosevelt told us, we have nothing to fear except fear itself. So when you first understand about 5G, of course, you find it difficult to accept initially, but when you fully understand it, of course, you feel a terror such as you have never felt in your entire life. Because now you're facing not just your own death, not just your own annihilation, but the annihilation of everything you've ever loved. Every tree, every blade of grass, everything that you've ever known and connected with, you're facing the destruction of all of it with 5G. So David Icke tells us that life brings you your greatest gifts disguised as your worst nightmares. So the opportunity of 5G is for us to go to ourselves to deal with it. You're not going to get anybody out there to deal with it because they don't know how to deal with it for the reasons I've described. So each one of us has to deal with it. It means that you have to go in. You don't go out there anymore to find solutions. The only place you can go is to your intuition and to your heart. So I said that Descartes, since Descartes, we've had this split between the head and the heart. Now is the time to reintegrate the heart. And the answers are in the heart, because this is about the destruction of our relationships with everything. So we need to go back to the heart to deal with it. So 5G is a teacher for us, a very significant teacher. So it teaches us that the universe is about energy, frequency, and vibration, which is what Nikola Tesla told us 100 years ago. It teaches us that we are not solid. We are beings of frequency. It teaches us that the answers are within us, and we must follow our intuition. We all have intuition. When we meet somebody, or when we look into a politician's face, we actually have an intuition that, oh, I don't feel comfortable about this person, you know? But we dismiss it because we're rational. So we don't listen to it. You know? We need to start listening. We are creator beings. There are many modern experiments which show us that we actually create what we experience. I won't go into the Global Consciousness Project, but this actually demonstrates that. So what we think, we create. Attention goes where energy flows. Sorry, energy flows where attention goes. It also teaches us that we need to take action right now. Now, in normal circumstances, when there's a problem, you think, oh, well, you know, I'm not very good at public speaking, you know, oh, I don't know, I'm not very good on the computer. I'll take a course, you know, maybe I'll try to deal with that next year. Yeah? But we don't have time for that now. Whatever resources you have right now, whoever you are right now, you don't need to change. I mean, yes, you need to change, but you need to be who you are. So it doesn't matter who you are, you need to look inside and say, well, what do I have? What could I do? Could I go and knock on my neighbour's doors? Could I write something out by hand and give it to people? There's always something. This gives us creativity. We look inside to find, well, you know, what can I dream up to combat this? So it's not about going to leaders or organizations or so-called authorities. As I said, there are now no authorities. They don't exist now under these circumstances. You are the authority. All organizations, I was working for the United Nations, so I can tell you that all organizations, all political parties have been co-opted. Forget going to anybody. We've tried as part of this campaign, and we've had zero response. So again, it's about coming to you. Yes, you can form a group, but each person in that group needs to be their own individual creator. Because as I say, nobody else has the answers, each of us has the answers. It teaches us that life is a dance, you know? In the materialist reductionist paradigm, we live in an inverted world. So we plan, we schedule everything, we buy insurance. We are generally taught that we have to map out and control everything. We live in a state of permanent fear, and we just feel that we have to exercise control. But actually, we live in an inverted world. So if you want to understand anything in this world, you know, why is it that education makes us ignorant? You know, why is it that so many people get sick or die when they go to a hospital or a doctor? The reason is that we live in an inverted world. And once you apply this principle of inversion, you start to understand and you start to see more clearly. So life is not something that we need to control. So I think people have mobile phones like a talisman or a sort of comfort blanket. You know, oh, I need this phone because somebody might mug me. You know, oh, I need this phone because my car might break down. Yeah? But if you get rid of the phone, which we have to do, then you discover that actually life is an adventure. You know, you may be mugged, but you may not be mugged, and it's kind of nice to not worry about it. You know, and your car may break down. I actually made my mobile phone safe earlier this year. There is a way of making a mobile phone safe, by the way. This is what I did. All you need is one mobile phone and a hammer. And then it's completely guaranteed. I guarantee this method. I'm not charging any money for it, but it works every time. And you need to take these mobile phones out of circulation. So what you find when you get rid of your phone is that you are back in life as an adventure. We don't come here to this life to plan and schedule and control and be traumatized. We actually come here to have an amazing adventure, an amazing experience. And when you get rid of this phone, you're back in the adventure. You know, now I don't know the time. I don't have a phone. Sometimes I don't have my watch. So I have to ask people. It's nice. I ask people the time, you know, and I don't know how to get to places. So I ask somebody. You know, this is what we used to do 20 years ago before we had phones, you know. And it's nice because you start chatting to people, you know. And I've already told you that thought has consequences. Now, just I need to wrap up. You get snake oil salesmen. This is what we see a lot. I have no axe to grind. I'm not selling anything. I don't collect money for what I do. I just want to stop 5G. So I don't want to misdirect people. And what we see is an awful lot of misdirection. So one of the things that you will see is people will propose alternatives. Oh, well, you know, we could have Wi-Fi, or we could have fiber optic cable, you know. And somebody the other day, when we said, oh, a fiber optic cable is for 5G, so the last thing you want is fiber optic cable. And I personally have problems with fiber optic cables because they came and connected it at my house a few weeks ago, so I know it's dangerous. Li-Fi, our bodies work on biophotons. 80% of our energy comes from the sun, not from food. So if you want to modulate light for a communications technology, it will kill you even faster than 5G. This is complete madness. So somebody the other day said, well, you know, if we don't have fiber optic cable, how can we have progress? Well, I would say, well, do we want progress? You know, if progress involves dying very suddenly, I'm not very keen on it personally. I mean, I'm not anti-technology, don't get me wrong. You know, I'm very pro-technology, but I don't want it to cost my life, you know? And it's very simple. We can still communicate. All you need is a cable from your computer to your router. And then you're safe. All I'm saying is we need to get rid of all wireless technology and all mobile phones because they're killing us. As long as you use your computer safely, you can still communicate quite happily. The other thing is mind control. This is another huge aspect of this. And I believe that I see this insanity and the insanity now in social media and in public discourse. And we all know, you know, the Antifa, all the intolerance and the rage and the awful comments and so on and so forth. This comes from this mobile phone technology. So, and not only from mobile phones and wireless technology, but it goes back even further. The mind control coming through the television and the radio is also extremely major. So if we're going to get out of this situation, we need to protect ourselves. So we need to start talking to each other and coming into heart resonance. So when you're actually physically with people, you go into heart resonance. Again, this is science, it's not woo-woo. We are going into heart resonance as we come together in this room. So for me, what 5G brings is it brings the principle of care, because 5G, for me, is actually the awakening. So the awakening is not something that is sort of out there, oh, there's going to be an awakening. No. The awakening is me going through this 5G campaign and facing all these challenges and facing my fears and integrating my emotions. It's okay, it's normal. You will feel grief, you will feel anger. It's normal to feel those things. You don't need to fear them. You just feel them and integrate them and move on. So the actual process of dealing with 5G, for me, is the awakening. And the awakening happens one person at a time. So 5G is the trigger for that, I believe. We need to appreciate everything we experience. Now that I know that the trees and the bees and the birds are so threatened by this wireless technology, I feel such a depth of connection to them. And, I have experiences like a little bird flies down and just comes to my feet and flies away again. There's a morphic field. They know what I'm doing. They know that I'm working for them. I have insects come and buzz around my face, and I think they're giving me a kiss, and I just feel such a love, such a connection for all the wonderful nature that we stand to lose at this point. So 5G for me actually generates love. So we need to appreciate everything, knowing that we stand to lose it if we don't do something about this. So we need to look around. We need to open our perception. Instead of focusing on a stupid phone, we need to open up and look around ourselves and see each leaf, see wonderful children playing and laughing, and watch what they do. Watch the sunrise, watch the sunset. Open your perception to everything. When you do that, it's quite magical. And we need to laugh a lot. So this is something I do with my colleague Steve. We're going to talk to you later. So we laugh a lot. And this also raises your vibration. So we need to live in gratitude, in appreciation, and in joy, because it raises our vibration and it keeps us healthy. And we need to come together and combat 5G. So I hope that's given you some notions of what 5G is about. And if you'd like to hear more, do come along at 9:30. Thanks, Trevor.
About 20 to 10. Because yeah, just say I'm actually after Brida's talk, so it'll be, say, 20 to 10, quarter to 10. All right, yeah. Okay, great stuff. So we have time for just one quick question, maybe. One quick question for Claire. Anyone?
Hi. So my question was just about the mind control part of it. Just because there hasn't been enough testing done on it, how can we prove that it's going to affect and have that mind, the voice-mind communication? I think that's what you had.
Well, this is extremely well documented. So I haven't written any articles specifically on mind control, but a lot of other people have, and it's totally documented that this can be done.
No, I have heard of it before.
So I can't give you the documents because it's not something that I specifically deal with. Over time, I'm writing articles about the different aspects. So I've written about 8 articles this year, but actually I read something about mind control the other day and I had the same reaction as before, which was, oh, I don't think I want to go there. I mean, I hear something more horrible every day and I have to kind of integrate that and move on. But the mind control, it's not, but it's very real.
Great stuff. Thanks very much, Claire. Round of applause for Claire, please. Thank you.